Welcome to the Fantasy Football Pregame Show. I'm your host, Ben. As always, with Matt. Matt, it is the semis in pretty much every league, unless you're playing a weird 7-week league. Although I've heard of people playing in 15-week leagues. So it might be the finals for some people today.
Oh,
Ever
yeah.
played in those, Matt?
I have not played in that, but I have heard of them before. Seems a little strange to me, but yeah, I guess people are worried about team sitting guys in week 16.
Your camera and sound are way off, so it's going to make for a fun show. Let's go over the inactives. We got some big ones today. Ezekiel Elliott, the Dallas Cowboys running back, is out. Julio is out. He was going to be a game-time decision. Devontae Parker is out, as is his teammate Mike Gesicki. Gibson, Harris out. Ingram out. And Michael Thomas is on IR. Maybe the fantasy football bust of the year, Matt? Think so? Maybe?
I mean, I'm not a fan of calling people bust when they're just hurt all year, but
he's played like 4 or 5 games and hasn't had a good game, like a great game started.
He's been okay lately, though.
Okay for a first-round pick. He hasn't lived up to the billing in the games that he's played. He's
Not
up
at all.
there for bust. So a couple things. Gibson out means McKissick is a good PPR play. Damian Harris out means that Sony Michel and James White are startable. I don't know what the split's going to be, but both should get work. Ingram out means that Gus Edwards is a better start than both of them in my minds, even in PPR, because I think that game is going to be a little bit more lopsided, and they're going to run all over Jacksonville. Gus Edwards, maybe 2 touchdowns for me, because I'm down 50 points in the projections in my Dynasty League because the guy I'm playing had Josh Allen, Darren Waller, and frickin' Singletary. He started Singletary, and he did what he did.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Melvin Gordon's hanging me around, but Devontae Adams didn't do me any favors last night. Very weird game that we're going to talk about. But let's get to the weather. Matt, anything to talk about?
No, actually, weather looks really good for
Perfect.
middle of December, which is nice.
Surprisingly good for December. Let's get into the Thursday Night Football. Actually, a really good game.
Yeah, good game. Good game. Really
One of the-
disappointing for the people that got duped, including myself, by Keenan Allen.
But what was your other option in the matchup that we're playing where you started him? Julio Jones?
Jalen Reagor. That's why I just went with him.
I mean, yeah, to me, it was him or Julio, and I was more confident he was going to do something than Julio. So I would have started the exact same person as you did. So unfortunate for you. Didn't help. Aaron Rodgers decided to, we'll talk about that later, but not perform after the half. Marcus Mariota, one of the bigger stories in 2 quarterbacks leagues, is he a must-add?
Yeah,
Or
in
do
2
you-
quarterback leagues, I think almost all quarterbacks are must-adds.
So if you're playing in the finals next week, any chance of starting Marcus Mariota?
In a 2 QB league, I don't know who Vegas plays next week off the top of my head, but I would say he'll probably be around quarterback 20 without knowing any different about what his matchup it looks like.
His matchup looks like the Dolphins at home.
That's a tough match. I would probably not start him over guys that I've been running all year, but I mean, one league I have Mitch Trubisky, so maybe over him. But
Over Mitch Trubisky, but not over anybody of note. Fair enough. Keenan Allen, as we mentioned, yelling into the camera, "Don't sit me," and then doing what he did. That just adds to it, right? Like if he hadn't said anything, people would be like, okay, understandable. But now people hate him.
Yeah.
And
I think people were like on the fence about starting him, and then the people that were on the fence about it, you hear that. You're like, okay, well then he thinks he's good, so I'm gonna roll with him.
So next year, is this going to impact his draft position?
It shouldn't, but it might.
It will.
might
It
be,
definitely will. He's going to drop half a round at least because people are going to remember what he did in the playoffs. People don't forget.
Look at Josh Jacobs last week.
And he played.
He did, but he said that he
Yes.
wasn't.
But at the same time, like he jokingly said, "Don't start me. I'm not playing." Not start me. And then, like everybody, by the time the game started for Josh Jacobs, everybody knew he was playing, and everybody knew he was going to be the guy. Keenan Allen did the opposite. No one knew, and then he confirmed that he would be, and then he shat the bed.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Justin Herbert, and let's talk about how good of a quarterback he's going to be next year. Is he a top 10 quarterback in 2021?
You know what? I don't really see why not. I don't see who leapfrogs him right now. Unless you're thinking one of the rookies like Lawrence or.
No, I'm not even considering rookies. Let's pretend there's no rookies coming in.
I'm deciding if I would put Burrow over him next year. I mean, not with
really. That's okay.
Jalen Hurts, I don't think so.
So players you would have over him, assuming they don't retire: Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Dak if he's back.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray.
Mm-hmm. Let's say Russ.
Russ, we're at 6.
Lamar
is 7. He has fallen big time.
Likely Watson.
8.
That's probably it. I know you probably have Baker ahead of him.
I definitely have Baker ahead of him.
That's probably it. So, yeah, I guess he is a top 10. I don't see anybody else. I mean, you could argue maybe Tannehill, but I don't think so.
And there you have it. Comments letting us know that Baker sucks.
Oh, well, there you go. Or Baker. Baker gets picked on this show a lot. I try to defend the guy.
You try to, but it's futile. Nelson Agholor, in 2021, assuming he stays with the Raiders, he is a top what wide receiver?
Baker's been good the last couple weeks. Anyway.
Baker sucks. Stop talking about Baker.
Okay. Nelson Agholor, he's a top 45.
Okay, that's about where I had him too. I think with the young people there, he's going to get knocked off. He's not somebody I'll be drafting in any leagues, but he's a guy who's going to have week-to-week value if somebody gets injured or something like that. He's not somebody you're ever going to be happy to play, but he's going to be a waiver wire, pick up and play through the bye weeks. Darren Waller is the blank best fantasy tight end in 2021. 2, 3.
Kittle and Kelsey are going to stay ahead.
So it's Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, Andrews,
Hawkinson.
Okay. How big is the gap between these players? Kelsey to Kittle. Is it bigger or smaller than the gap from Kittle to Waller?
It's a bigger jump from Kittle to Waller than it is Kelsey to Kittle.
Wow. Okay. I would have went the other way on that.
No, Kittle's been hurt all year. I mean, Kittle's still good, amazing when he plays.
I mean, Waller's been pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But so he's a top 3 guy. Going to go way too early for any of us to draft him. So let's talk about some Saturday football, starting with the Bills and the Broncos. And my man, the man you hate, Cole Beasley. Another big game. Let's talk about him in 2021. Staying with the Bills, Brown under contract still. Where does he rank for you next season?
About 30.
That high? You don't think John Brown comes back and takes away from him? You don't think Gabriel Davis evolves and he becomes kind of a nothing player?
Gabe Davis will evolve a bit. I'm not too worried about John Brown, to be honest.
Fair enough. Is Cole Beasley a sell for you in the offseason in a dynasty league?
Yeah, I think so. I think people will have him a little bit higher than he should be.
What would you take for him? A third, or do you need a second?
I'd need at least a 2 for him. I don't think someone you get in the third is going to be.
I don't think you'll get a second for him. Maybe a late second for somebody who needs some depth because they're pretty set up. But I think it's tough to get a second for a guy who's older, who's only had one really good season. Although last season was pretty good as well. But I don't think you're getting a second for him. I would probably take a third if I have the depth and don't need him. He's just kind of an extra piece. I'd rather rebuild for the future than have way too much bench depth. What about Josh Allen? Where does he rank quarterbacks 2021? Top 5? Top 3?
Well, I'd say top 5 for sure. I'm going to say he's behind Mahomes still for me.
Behind Kyler or ahead of Kyler?
I think I will put him behind Kyler, but that's close. So he's top 3, I think.
Top 3 with Kyler being 2?
Yeah, and those 2 are super close for me. It's Mahomes and then a bit of a drop and then the next 2.
Fair enough. Let's talk about somebody where there's a huge drop-off from Josh Allen. Your favorite player coming into this year, you drafted him in a lot of mocks, Drew Lock.
Oh.
Where does he rank next year for you in 2021?
About 20-ish.
Really, that high?
Ish. 21, 22.
Ahead or behind Baker Mayfield?
Behind.
Behind Baker Mayfield. So Baker should be at about 25. So I think you're thinking maybe 25 past. Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock in 2021?
Drew Lock.
Terrible. You're giving people terrible advice here. It's
Well,
Teddy
you got
Two
Sutton, you got Fant, you got Jeudy.
You got DJ Moore, you got Christian McCaffrey, you got Robbie Anderson, you got Curtis Samuel.
Yeah.
You're really trying to compare the weapons here? Because how many dump-off passes did Teddy Bridgewater get to Christian McCaffrey where he goes for 40 yards?
Not that many.
Not that many, just a handful?
Yeah.
200 free yards on dump-off passes?
Maybe McCaffrey won't play next year like this year.
Maybe. Maybe Sutton won't play next year like this year.
Yeah, he's hurt.
Let's talk about somebody who probably won't play for the Broncos next year, and that's Phillip Lindsay. If he leaves in free agency, where would you rank Melvin Gordon next season in the running back discussion?
If Lindsay leaves, I still don't have him that high, to be honest. I'm going to say like about 20-ish.
Okay, I'd probably have him closer to top 15. I think he would be quite high. I think if they're comfortable with just him, Lindsay's been the only reason he hasn't been as good as possible. If you combine both of them together, I'm sure they have fantastic stats. And Melvin Gordon would get probably about 80-90% of that next year if Lindsay is gone. So,
I mean, they could bring in somebody else.
They could, but we're assuming nobody else gets brought in, and it's Melvin Gordon time.
If we're doing that, then I'd say like 17, 18, something like that.
Is Jerry Jeudy a bust or a buy low candidate? And if he's a buy low candidate, what would you pay for him? More or less than Cole Beasley?
More than for Cole Beasley, yeah.
Easy second for him? No question?
Yeah, I would give him a second, especially if I'm mid to late second.
What about an early second?
Kind of depend on my roster shape. If I need a good wide receiver, then I'll still go for it.
Well, if you're giving away an early second, you're in rebuild mode, so.
I don't think people will be selling Jeudy, though. I think people know that he's worth holding on to for at least another season or two.
But if you can get a second at the draft, people get like really excited about the draft and all the new rookies, all the new shiny toys that they can have, and they'll easily discard somebody who's, hasn't done it in their rookie year and just don't have the patience for them. So I think easily I would give up an early second for Jerry Jeudy. Again, it depends on what the class looks like this year. But if right now somebody offered me Jerry Jeudy for a second and I was a bottom non-playoff team, I would do that trade. Yeah. Stefon Diggs is the blank best wide receiver in the game today. We're talking fantasy, of course. Where does he rank for you?
I'm just counting out guys I put ahead of him. He's probably about 5, I guess. 5
wow. That is quite high. So you have Adams, Hill, Thomas, Hopkins, and then him.
I mean, he's in there with like Ridley, Keenan Allen, Metcalf. I
think he's ahead of all those guys for me. I think maybe where does he rank compared to I think he's ahead of Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
I think he's ahead of AJ Brown. Yeah, he's probably top 5.
Yeah.
You probably got me there. Although Amari Cooper would be an interesting one with Dak back to see what he's going to do, but he's ahead of all those guys. So yeah, number 5, and it's pretty interesting since coming into the league, coming into this season, he was ranked 25?
Yeah, I mean he was going round 5.
Yeah, and he was somebody we absolutely told you to draft. Nobody expected him to be this good. I expected him to be similar to Minnesota, but not as good. And he's been better because they've moved to way more passing, and their run game absolutely sucks.
Except for
Moss had some good runs yesterday, and Singletary got some points. But all season, they haven't been able to move the ball other than Josh Allen's legs or Josh Allen's arm. So he's done really well, and there's no reason to think that's going to change next year. Like, it's not like they're going to fix the offensive line to be able to run more, which brings us to the question about what to do with Zack Moss.
I think you'll have to hold him probably still.
But what is he going to do in this situation if it's not going to get better? He's going to have Singletary there for another 2 years. Singletary showed that when he was the guy, when Moss was out, there still wasn't that many fantasy points to go around. This just doesn't seem like a good fantasy situation. And, of course, things could change really quickly. But is Zack Moss possibly a sell? And if he's a sell, what would you want for him? Are you selling him for a third, or you need a second?
I'm not taking a third for him.
So you'll hold if it's a third, but you'll sell if you get a second?
Maybe. Again, I agree with what you're saying. Like, he's probably not better than a top 30 running back next year.
And it's always going to be frustrating because you're never going to be able to start him unless Singletary is out. And like I said, we saw when Moss was out, Singletary wasn't able to do that much, getting even more volume. So this team runs with Josh Allen. They're going to extend him on his fifth-year option. It's going to continue to be the Josh Allen show. He steals carries at the goal line. He runs in more touchdowns than anybody not named Cam Newton at the quarterback position. So I just feel like it's a bad situation. And barring a trade, which doesn't usually happen with rookies, they usually get them for cheap for 4 years, and then after that they can go get a contract. But I think he's a sell, and if I could get a second for him, I would absolutely take that.
Or would you take a third?
I would take an early third, but not anything like it'd have to be like 1, 2, or 3. And it would have to be on draft day, and I'd have to know who was there.
Right.
But now I would absolutely take a second, probably 3.01. Question for you on Diggs. On a scale from 1 to 10, how surprised are you that he's been better in Buffalo than in Minnesota?
About a 7.
Yeah, how about a 6?
Yeah,
I thought it was a possibility, but Allen had never thrown for that many yards. But he was leaving a run-first offense to go to what is obviously a pass-first offense. But it is still surprising to see that Josh Allen has developed the way he has. Better throwing mechanics this year has really helped him become the quarterback that he is and, dominate fantasy leagues. Let's talk about the Panthers versus Packers. Apparently they wanted Saturday to be all the same letter, so Bills, Broncos, Panthers, Packers. Did Aaron Rodgers get drunk at halftime? Is that what happened?
That's what they say, yes. He opened up a thing of whiskey, and that was it.
Out 4 fingers of whiskey and then went back out there.
He moved to Scotch.
Four fingers of Scotch, went back out there, and basically just did nothing. It was just out there for show. What I thought was going to be a blowout, because you have them in our matchup, in our semifinal matchup, I was hoping that the score was going to get too out of hand. They would sit them. And it did not go that way at all. It looked like it was going to go that way. The first half was an absolute beatdown. Yeah. The second half was, I don't know what it was. It was tough to watch.
Yeah, it was like they got figured out or something, and the Panthers had the answers, and I don't know. Their offensive line wasn't playing Packers' offensive line wasn't playing as strong as it normally does either. Didn't help.
Do you think that the feud between Aaron Rodgers and David Bakhtiari has now spread onto the field and it is affecting the play of the guard? Because I saw at one point Rodgers got sacked and nobody even helped him up.
No, I believe they are best friends.
If you say so. Question for you. If you had started both Keenan Allen and Robbie Anderson and you were allowed to punch one in the face, who would it be?
It's got to be Keenan.
Got to be Keenan?
Yeah, Robbie Anderson was playing against, Jair Alexander has been shutting down wide receivers almost all year, and it just continued yesterday. The one big play that Anderson did have, he was playing against Kevin King. And, Jair is a shutdown corner. He did it against name some names. Calvin Ridley was one. I don't remember off the top of my head who else he shut down, but he had 3 or 4 stud receivers got very little. So, sorry, Robbie.
Robert Tonyan is the blank best fantasy tight end in 2021, assuming he stays in Green Bay. Contract is up after the season.
Yeah, I think he'll still be there. I think they have exclusive rights to him. But I'm going to say Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, Andrews, Hawkinson, Fant,
Henry?
probably Henry. So maybe 8.
Jonnu?
I think they're pretty similar enough. I'd probably go.
So top 10 for sure.
Yeah, he's 8 to 10. I mean, I thought Hayden Hurst would be a lot better. I mean, Zach Ertz, we obviously thought was going to be a lot better. Goddard may be better than him next year.
If Ertz leaves, I would obviously take Goddard ahead of Tonyan. I think you'd agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think he still gets close to that top 10. He's still a tight end 1, as people like to say, although with tight end, the 1 designation, there's a huge gap from the top to the bottom of the tight end 1. So
you could possibly argue that Kyle Pitts gets ahead of him too.
Who?
He's a tight end in college coming out.
Okay.
Big one.
What about DJ Moore? Top what wide receiver in 2021, knowing that Robbie Anderson will still be there and will still be getting his share of targets?
Say about top 15, I think still.
I think that's fair. I think it's probably in the 15 to 20 range. I like obviously going to want Metcalf, McLaurin, AJ Brown, Ridley. Lockett's kind of tough. He's probably had a Lockett. Depending on what happens in Tampa Bay, Godwin and Evans might both be ahead of him. Yeah. That's if Antonio Brown doesn't come back, because I think he's
I'd be surprised if he came back.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he came back too. Got a question here. Pollard or Gallman? Interesting question. I think it's Pollard.
That's super close for me, but yeah, I think it's Pollard too. But
playing against the Bengals?
Yeah. No, Pollard was against the 49ers.
Oh, that's a tougher matchup. Yeah. But Gallman, again, has Deion Lewis, where Pollard's probably going to get 20-plus touches easy. Yeah.
And Devonta Freeman was practicing. I don't think he's expected to play today, but he was back at practice.
Run CMC is the blank pick in the 2021 draft.
That's interesting because, I mean, you've got him and Barkley both basically out almost all year.
Zeke's in the committee now when he plays.
Sorry, who's in the committee?
Zeke, splitting carries with Pollard.
No, I think McCaffrey's ahead of Zeke for sure.
Is Cook the one you're worried about? Or Henry?
Cook, Henry. I'm not really worried about Kamara. Those guys, no.
Do you think the top 6 next year will be the same as the top 6 this year, but just in a different order?
Oh, what was the top 6 this year?
CMC, Barkley, Zeke, Kamara, Cook, Henry.
I don't think Zeke is in there.
You don't think Zeke is in the top 6 next year?
No, I just don't see it. I think maybe like Adams gets in there, or maybe Adams beats him out. Just trying to think of anybody else. Like Elliott's been getting progressively worse. Like I don't know if you saw that stat this year, like that had his like last 5 years of yards per game.
I haven't seen that
every year.
So wow, you're on the he absolutely sucks train.
No, he's still a first round pick, but I don't know if he's top half of the first round anymore.
Still first round picks, not in the top half.
Yeah.
Where does Michael Thomas drop to? The first round this year has been an absolute just almost all busts.
Yeah.
Like the first 3 guys are all busts. 4, 5, 6 are good. 7 is likely Thomas. Josh Jacobs has been average. Mixon has been nothing. Drake hasn't lived up to it.
I don't know if Drake was a first-round pick.
I think he was. CEH was definitely a first-round pick, and he has been not good. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, depending on which wide receivers go, but most of them went in the second round. Like you had your Tyreek Hills and your Hopkins going in the second round with your Adams.
Yeah.
So really depending on who went where, but the running backs has been just absolutely not good.
Yeah. But yeah, to answer your question with McCaffrey, I think he's still top 3 pick anyway. I mean, you could maybe argue that Henry or Cook. But in PPR, I'd still go McCaffrey.
So here are the draft results for a half PPR draft that I did. And again, the top 6 are the running backs. And then Michael Thomas at 7. Then Mixon, Edwards, Jacobs, Chubb coming back in the second. Miles Sanders in the second. That's when Tyreek went as well. Yeah, other than yesterday, Aaron Jones hasn't been that good either.
Not as good as he should have been, no.
Anyways, let's move on to somebody who is now in the absolute worst situation for a running back, and that's Todd Gurley. Is he droppable in a one-year league?
I don't know if I could put myself to drop him, but I wouldn't start him. So, I mean, I guess you might as well.
You can't start him this week against the Bucs. He's playing in a committee now. They're looking to see what else they have since they're not making the playoffs. He's on a one-year deal. He's probably not going to be there next year. He's probably going to be in a committee next year. So even in Dynasty, he's not overly valuable. I mean, I guess it would be tough to drop him. It would depend on who he's playing next week to see exactly how bad it is. But
I don't think I could start him. Like, honestly, I don't think he's startable anymore.
Not startable, and it's the playoffs, so you're likely okay to drop him if you need somebody else. But again, an injury could happen to one of the other backs, and he could go back to being the guy. So you would start Todd Gurley today if you had drank blank amount of Coors already.
10
Coors?
Yeah.
Maybe Gurley's going to get the touchdowns today. I think
Really?
he's going to get the
I think we went backwards about 2 years. Yeah, he's good still.
Just forgetting what date it is after 10 Coors?
Yeah, maybe.
What's the best scenario for him in 2021? Where's the good landing spot? I assume he gets to the Packers.
I hope not.
On a cheap deal, and then works his way with A.J. Dillon in a committee. That's not the best scenario for him. The best scenario for him would be what?
I think his best scenario is somewhere where he has to be a bell cow, so they have to stick with him regardless. But
where's their bell cow openings right now in the league?
There's not really one. Well,
there really isn't any.
No.
I can't really think of like the Jets. Is that a good opportunity?
I guess that might be one if you go there with Trevor Lawrence and see what they can do. But
I mean, most other teams don't have either don't have a bell cow or they already have their bell cow. I can't really think of a situation. If he goes to Pittsburgh, maybe that makes sense because Connor leaves. But again, that'd be a similar situation to Green Bay where he's going there to be part of the running back committee. But anyways, let's get into our rankings fight. A lot of rankings fell off because of the inactives today. As we talked about Zeke out, so we were going to talk about Pollard. We're going to talk about Zeke. Not anymore. We're going to kick it off with James Conner. Matt, I have him at number 11. I think this is a get-right game for James Conner. The TikTokers have lost 2 games in a row, and they haven't been able to run the ball. They play Cincinnati ranked 25th against the run. Last time they played Cincinnati, they decided to throw 80 times for no reason, just to really blow them out and embarrass Joe Burrow, which just seems stupid because now they've lost 2 in a row. Do they get the running game going this week? You have him at 26, so he's not a for sure start for you. He is for me. I would have put him in a DFS lineup had he been eligible, but he plays Monday or tonight. I can't remember who it is. What do you think of him why do you have him at 26? I
don't think the run game is good. That's why.
You don't think this is the week they try to fix it to get some confidence?
But they're running. They just can't. Who were they playing there when we put in Benny Snell instead of Peterson? And their offensive linemen, they just can't block. They can't block for the run.
They were playing Washington, who was a pretty good defense.
Yeah, okay, but still. And they're better than Cincinnati's D, of course.
It wasn't the Bungles. Washington, I believe, is 7th against the run.
They are just not a running team. Connor can't stay on the field that long. He doesn't get the snap share. They're going to use Snell. They're probably going to use McFarland. I have him in as a flex in one of my games, but I don't think he's a sure starter at all. I just don't think they even try to run it that much. Probably about maximum 15 carries for Connor.
Maximum 15 carries. You heard it here first. Matt with the absolute terrible projection of 15 carries for Connor. I expect this game to be a blowout. I expect Connor to get 20 plus today. Get that 2-point bonus in our league of record. Number 2 on the list, somebody who you have higher than Connor, and I have way lower than Connor, and that's somebody we talked about already today who has not been good this year. A first-round pick from the Kansas City Chiefs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Matt, you have him at 19. I have him at 31. When was the last time he had a good game?
Probably quite a while ago. They just like to throw with Mahomes.
Yeah.
But let's see. Last time he had a good game.
We got a question while you're looking it up. Kellen Hollahan, welcome back to the program. Make sure to hit that like button. His question is Browns D or Ravens D? I'm pretty sure this has to be Ravens D going up against Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Browns, I'm not 100% on who they're playing.
They're playing the Giants.
Nah, I would go Colt McCoy. I just think that Gardner's going to have to do too much, and they're going to get the turnovers. So I'm picking the team where they're going to have a better chance of getting the turnovers. I think Colt McCoy really takes care of the football and isn't going to turn it over. Neither of these teams should score a lot of points, but I'm looking for turnover points here, and that's going to be Ravens for me.
Yeah. Turnovers, sacks, things like that. That's what you look for with D. Like, not necessarily the points are going to be tougher to try and project, but yeah. I mean, you're looking at sacks and picks and things like that.
Yeah, and I'm assuming Gardner's going to have to try to win this game, because they're going to be down 21 in no time, and it's going to be Gardner throwing and a lot of passes caught by James Robinson. Fingers crossed. I wish I had started Melvin Gordon over him, but I couldn't make that. It would have been different. If Lindsay was out, I would have probably started because I know the Buffalo Bills run these just horrendous. But I can't count on 10 touches or whatever for him versus the 20 that he's going to get. Next up in the rankings fight, we have Leonard Fournette. Ronald Jones is out, right?
Yeah, I think he is going to be out.
Got a question before we get to Leonard Fournette. Adam Thielen or Scary Terry? That's going to be Scary Terry for me. I really like him this week. I have him in both my DFS lineups. Haskins is back. And that's good news for Scary Terry because Haskins likes to bomb it down the field. Not accurately, but Scary Terry can make it work. And the Legion of Room has not been very good. Although they've been getting better, I still think Scary Terry just destroys them. And with Thielen, it's not like it's hit and miss, but some weeks it's just not quite there. And I know that happened with Terry, but that hasn't really happened with Terry when he had Haskins because Haskins isn't afraid to get picked off 3, 4, 5 times a game even, right? He's got that. And yeah, Josh Allen beasted, playing him in my Dynasty League. I am going backwards in my Dynasty League, Matt. 1 the first year, 2nd last year, and it looks like I'll be playing for 3rd this year. I don't know. Bad trade too as well at the draft. I felt too in love with certain players in the rookie draft and decided to trade a late 3rd and a 2021 3rd for Brian Edwards when I could have just stuck with my pick, grabbed Antonio Gibson for a team that needs running back depth because my running back depth is basically Chris Carson and Melvin Gordon. Yeah,
that's tough, but I mean, it's like you said, people get those players in their head and they really want them.
And that's a mistake. And it's a learning situation, and it was a mistake that I did and just fell too in love with the player and didn't focus. Like, I'm not saying you should go out for a draft and focus on your position of need. You should take best player available, but forcing a trade like that to just say I got the 3 guys that I wanted when I did have a position of need and really didn't need 3 wide receivers because I do have decent wide receivers with Devontae Adams, Cortland Sutton, Odell Beckham, and then some other guys that fill in the.
Yeah, but anyway, back to that question. I've got Thielen 1 spot.
See you later, Kellen. Thanks for the like. Back to the question. Go ahead.
Well, I just say he's left anyway, so. But I have Thielen 1 spot ahead, but yeah, very close here.
Leonard Fournette, Matt, I have him at 20 with Ronald Jones out against a surprisingly good Atlanta Falcons defense for the run, apparently. Top 5. Matt, you have him at 30. Other than being surprised about how good Atlanta is against the run, why do you have him so low?
Well, it starts with him being a healthy scratch last week. Like, I don't think Arians likes him that much to do that. I mean, they've still got other backs there. They still got McCoy and.
Come on.
I know. I wouldn't have said it either, but like, if he played over Fournette last week, I think Fournette's still the top back there this week. But I don't trust him that much to run him out as a for sure starter. Not over guys like David Johnson or McKissick, or
I don't think I'd put him over. Maybe I would put him over McKissick, actually. Yeah.
you have them over the both of them.
Yeah. I mean, David Johnson is facing a tough defense in Indy. I don't care what the number there beside it says, but Indy's been tough, and David Johnson is not very good anymore.
I don't disagree with that, but they don't have anybody else there. Like, this is a pure volume.
I get it, but they didn't have anybody else when Duke Johnson was playing, and Duke Johnson didn't do squat. And you always forget about CJ Procise.
CJ Procise is out.
Is he out?
Yeah.
Wow. They really need Lamar Miller back there. They should get Lamar Miller.
Lamar Miller is signed with Washington, though.
Yeah, and he's also out today. Let's talk about somebody who's not out, since that would be beneficial to the people watching. James White. I have him at 27. So in the flex range at Miami. Matt, you are not buying. You have him at 36.
I think I asked him.
I'm good with him in PPR, and even in standard, he has value with Harris out. His role's gotten bigger since Burkhead was gone. How many touches for him today, and why is he not even in the flex consideration for you?
Well, let's back this up a little bit. I did ask you to move him up for me once Harris went out.
I believe I did.
Not enough. Anyway,
Would you like him?
It's still a terrible backfield to try to guess what's going to happen every week. It's easier with Burkhead out, but I mean, they're still going to have Sony Michel there and James White. They're probably not going to be a pass-heavy team today. It's probably going to be a pretty low-scoring game. I'll say about I'm going to go 13 to 15 touches for James White.
And would you start him or Leonard Fournette if you give him the option?
In PPR, I'd still go Leonard, I think.
All right, so he's not that far off. James White or Gus Edwards?
James White or Gus? I'll go Gus Best.
Okay.
I actually changed my decision on Gus Best. We were talking about it earlier. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, last one. James White or Todd Gurley?
James White.
So I need to move James White one spot higher for you. My bad.
Todd Gurley sucks.
Let's talk about our next player here, and that's Gio Bernard, who I have way off the board at 54, and you have ahead of James White at 28. Do you actually think this is his backfield? I mean, he hasn't been good. They've given a lot of touches to Samaje Perine. They had another back working in there too, and Darwin Tomlinson. So, I just don't think he's going to get the volume anymore, and I can't trust that.
Yeah, that's I'm surprised I have him that high. I don't remember doing that, but
you might have a couple Coors before you put him that high.
Maybe that would have been. Maybe it's one of the ones you were fiddling around with too. I don't know, but yeah. I mean, I still think he's going to get the majority of the he's going to get more touches than the rest of the crew. I think,
but that could be 9.
It could be.
Yeah, and it's against they're going to get blown out by the Steelers, and they have Ryan Finley at quarterback.
So, I mean, he gets the dump off passes, right? He's still their best receiving back.
Well, I think what's his name is probably better.
Travion Williams? Samaje.
Yeah, he's more of an airbag than Gio. Gio's good, an all-around, can do it all kind of back. Not great at anything. But, yeah, Travion Williams is the one. Let's talk about the number one TikToker in the NFL, the one and only Juju Smith-Schuster. Matt, I have him at 21. You have him at 31. Why are you so down on him, especially after Deontay Johnson had less than 50% snap count last week after dropping basically every pass thrown his way?
Yeah, I think they'll bring Deontay back. He obviously got sad after a couple early drops, so that was that. It's funny. This is kind of like the opposite we had them last week. I was higher and you were lower. But yeah, the yardage there is not good.
Not good. The receptions there are good for Juju.
Sorry?
The receptions are good. A lot of catches.
Yep.
A lot of dancing.
We're having the same argument, but reverse as last week.
Yeah. But again, my argument this week is Deontay Johnson. I have way out of the rankings. I wouldn't start him on any team. I would start Juju by a mile ahead of him. I mean, if it's a flex position, I'm starting basically every running back we've talked about over Deontay Johnson. I don't think that he gets back into the lineup this week in the same way that he was because of the drops. I think as a quarterback, when you see somebody drop that many passes, you're going to be hesitant to throw it his way.
But when they brought him back, he was getting the ball again. When he got back onto the field, they threw it to him 2 or 3 times almost right away. and he caught those. So I think that he's back in the game plan, and I think he's still the top receiver in Pittsburgh.
I'll take Juju and Claypool and even James Washington over him this week, although I wouldn't want to be starting James Washington if I'm in any type of playoffs. Let's talk about the man in the back. I used to have Parker up there, but then he was ruled out, so I had to change it. Corey Davis. Matt, one bad week, and now you got him at 35. I still got him at 24. I don't think the bad week tarnishes the season he's had. We're going to talk more about that in a bit. But why are you way down on him? Is it just the bad week?
No, it's like their A.J. Brown. It's still – I think it's going to be the Derrick Henry show there today. I think Tannell's still going to be pretty good. So, yeah, he's still in the 3 wide receiver conversation to flex area. But he's really not a dependable guy to rely on. 2
bad weeks through 11. That's it.
It's not good. It's not good. Not opposed to starting him. I've got him over some okay players here, but
just looking at your rankings here, you have Tyler Boyd ahead of him. I don't think I could do that.
Boyd's more of a sure thing, I think.
Sure for 60, maybe. Okay, let's talk about Antonio Brown. We have this conversation every week. I like him. You don't. I got him at 26. You got him at 36. This is the get-right game, right, for this passing offense against the Falcons. The Falcons are terrible through the air. Then you can't run against them, and they don't trust Leonard Fournette. Is this the 6-carry game that the Bucs are going to have? And it's just going to be throw.
I wouldn't be that surprised, actually, if that's their game.
Me neither. So that's got to be good news for Antonio Brown. Get him in the lineups if you're desperate.
Like Evans and Godwin and Gronk.
Godwin has been absolutely terrible this year.
Yeah.
And it's surprising because I thought Evans would be the one who would take the big step back with Brady just because of the game, and Godwin would be the guy. But ever since Antonio Brown has showed up, Godwin and Brown have like a very similar role, so they just take away from each other, and it's just not good for fantasy, and it hasn't been good for wins.
Evans has held on to his role in that offense. Yeah. And
last one,
really. But.
Last one, it's a tight end. So the end we talk about every week. It's your 13th favorite player in the NFC. That's Evan Ingram, the tight end for the New York Giants. I have at 16 because Colt McCoy is his quarterback today, and Colt McCoy barely threw for 100 yards last time they played. You have him at top 10 because you've had about that many cores.
Hey, you know what? What we say when you're not that great of a quarterback, you look for the safe options, and that's usually the tight end.
100. Just barely over 100 yards last time he was on.
So Evan Ingram gets like 70 of those.
Half the yardage goes to the tight end. 3 wide receivers named Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, and Darius Slayton. And even running back Wayne Gallman and Deion Lewis get 75 combined. You heard it here, folks. The prediction, 75 yards for Ingram, equal to what every other player on the team will get in receiving yards. If he's wrong,
he's going to throw for more than 100 yards too.
150 yards. We're giving him.
You have one bad game and you don't forgive him.
He's never been good. He's Colt McCoy. Anyways, it is time for I was going to call it Matt versus Chad, but apparently not too many people made the semis that are watching today. So it's just going to be a quiz for Matt.
Sweet.
So it's going to be who's been better. Pretty simple. Who's been better?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Me.
I've been better than you. Who's had more top 10s this season? Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers? Not counting yesterday.
Probably Rodgers.
Rodgers has 11. Patrick Mahomes only has 9. Very consistent for my MVP pick to start the season with compared to your MVP pick to start the season with.
They're still number 1 and 2 in the MVP voting, I think.
Second, who's had more top 10s? Another quarterback one. Ben Roethlisberger or Matt Ryan?
It's got to be Ben.
Ben's had 2.
Really?
4 for Matt Ryan.
I'm surprised Ben's been that bad. I thought he's been pretty solid.
He just hasn't been good enough to be in the top 10. Like, he's been okay, and I think basically the way you look at it is he just hasn't cracked the top 10. He's been like 15 every week or 13, or he hasn't been like 25.
He's been solid, whereas Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Matt Ryan's been basically just like up and down. Last top 10 one. Who's had more top 10s, not including yesterday? Chris Carson or Aaron Jones?
They've both been out for a few weeks.
They've both been disappointing.
I'll say Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones has had 4 top 10 performances.
Okay.
Did you want to change your answer?
No.
Chris Carson has had 2 top 10 performances.
Yeah.
Not the year we were expecting from Chris Carson, and yet here you are starting him against me in our league. We're going to jump to a trivia question. This is a tough one, all right?
Okay.
There are 3 players in the NFL that have only 2 top 10 performances this season, and both of those top 10 performances have come in the last 2 weeks. Can you name 1, 2, or all 3 of them?
Okay. Sorry, that was a long question. There's
3 players in the NFL that have only 2 top 10 performances this year. And both of those performances have come in the last 2 weeks. I do believe this is standard, though. I'm not sure.
And it's not a quarterback, or are they allowed to be?
There's a running back, a wide receiver, and a tight end. It has not been a quarterback. Taysom Hill would have been your guess, but he hasn't had top 10 performances the last 2 weeks. He's been playing for more than 2 weeks, by the way. He has had top 10s.
Okay. Probably David Montgomery is one.
That is incorrect.
No?
Strike 1.
Okay. Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor is correct.
Yeah. Okay. So that's our running back.
That's your running back, wide receiver, and a tight end left.
And you said these are standard, right?
I think so. I can't remember what my scoring is for the top 10s that I look at. I do believe it's standard, though.
T.Y.
T.Y. is also correct.
Yeah.
Now you need one more at tight end. You got this. You're doing a lot
I
better.
remember what T.Y.'s real name was, and I just can't think of it. Too bad Randy Savage isn't there to tell us.
Eugene something?
Yeah.
Eugene Marquis?
Yeah, that's something like that, yeah. Tight end, eh?
You are starting him in one of your leagues this week.
You only know about a couple of my leagues.
And how would I know who you're starting in one of your leagues this week? Either A, you're starting him against me, which is not the case.
Yeah, Hawk is not that answer.
No. Or B, you mentioned him. The only way I would know who else is in your leagues.
Kelsey is, I have Kelsey, but that's
Kelsey has like 30.
Yeah.
Every week he's there. I think he has more than Rodgers. He has the same amount as Rodgers, which is pretty impressive on Rodgers' part, although he's going to not be in the top 10 this week.
I mentioned that I was starting this guy to you?
Yes.
Is it Dan Arnold?
It is Dan Arnold. Well done. I feel like the hint gave it away.
That was a big hint, yeah. I was trying to remember who I
You asked what would happen in the tight end premium if somebody was eligible at both in Sleeper. And I said I would assume they would get it regardless. Looks like we might have an Instagram question here. Nope, just saying thank you for the Pollard answer. Okay, back to who's been better. Right after this comment, we got a comment from Justin. Higgins on the Browns or Pollard PPR? I think it's got to be Pollard.
Yeah,
Pollard all day, Justin. Thanks for the comment. Make sure that like button. Good luck today, Justin. Make sure to drop any other questions you got in the comments. We'll read them right away. Who's had more yards? Now, one criteria for this is it has to be equal to at least one extra fantasy point per week. So if it's a quarterback, that's 25 times 14, so it's like 300 or 400. And if it's a running back or wide receiver, it's at least going to be 100. Okay? Number 1, Matt Ryan or Ryan Tannehill. Who's had more yards? Passing yards, not total yards.
I think it's probably Matt Ryan.
It is Matt Ryan, 3,600 versus 3,200. Who's had more rushing yards? Ezekiel Elliott or Alvin Kamara? A couple of first-round picks, number 3 and 4 in most leagues. Thinking about it? We can't play the Jeopardy music because it's copyrighted.
I'm going to...
A fun fact for everybody listening,
Kamara.
Nick Chubb is 6th in rushing in only 9 games. An absolutely torrid pace for Nick Chubb. the standard. He might be like a top 5 pick in standard next year. It'd be tough for him not to be.
Yeah, it's just tough with Hunt there.
But it hasn't mattered. He still gets 130 yards a game.
Wyatt Teller is out today, which is going to hurt that Browns offense. He is a guard, and I was reading a stat yesterday that when he's been in, they have like the second or third highest yards per carry. When he's been out, they go down to 29th.
Wow, that is a really big deal. How many games has he been out for? Is it like 1?
I can't remember. I didn't. It didn't have that.
I think it's a fascinating stat, but it might not mean a lot if it's only been 1 game. While you're thinking, I'm going to go over my lineups. As I mentioned, I'm going to be starting Gus Edwards over James White. I don't feel great about it, but it's my best option because I'm in no way starting Sterling Shepard with Colt 100-yard McCoy at quarterback. Packers D did well for me yesterday. Got me almost 10 points. You have an answer yet on Zeke or Kamara, or are you still want to think about it?
I said Kamara.
It is Zeke by 109 yards. Next up, Corey Davis, man in the back, versus Devontae Parker, the man whose jersey was in the back before he was ruled out and I had to take him out. Who's had more yards?
Sorry, I was reading Wyatt Teller. He's been out 3 weeks already.
3 weeks this year.
So 6, 7, and 8, yeah.
Okay. Corey Davis versus Devontae Parker, more yards.
Let's go. I'm going to say Corey Davis.
It is Corey Davis.
Yeah.
835 to 677. Fun fact, because you love A.J. Brown so much, in 11 games, Corey Davis and A.J. Brown are 2 yards apart on the season. We do have a question. I see it on the YouTube thing. It's from Troy S. It says, morning, gents. Full PPR, choose 2. Deontay Johnson, nope. Brandon Cooks, Woods, or Swift. Thanks and good luck this week. Deontay, Cooks, Woods, Swift. I think Swift and Woods for me.
Woods for sure. Yeah, Woods and Swift, I'd say.
Woods and Swift it is. There's the question. It just takes a second to get on the StreamYard. So Swift and Woods, the last 2 there. Thanks for the question. Make sure that like button, Trey. Back to some trivia, Matt. How many top 10 performances do these players have in 2020? Hint, it's all the same number. Amari Cooper, DJ Moore, not counting yesterday, Terry McLaurin, Robert Woods, and Mike Evans. They all have the exact same number of top 10 performances this season. What is that number?
I'll go 5.
3 is the correct answer. So you whiffed on that one after getting the much more difficult one. Now we're going to go to see who has the most fantasy points to end off the show. Who has more fantasy points per game this season? Tom Brady or Deshaun Watson?
I think it's got to be Watson.
It is Watson, 23 to 20.4. Still a nice number for Brady. Next question, more fantasy points. Clyde Edwards-Helaire or David Montgomery. Both have played 12 games.
And this is standard?
No, this is PPR.
I'm still going to go Montgomery because Helaire's been bad.
Montgomery, 15.6. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 13.9. So correct again. So who has more fantasy points PPR? Tyler Lockett or Scary Terry McLaurin? They're playing today, by the way.
They're playing each other, yeah.
What are the chances that McLaurin will cover Lockett or that Lockett will cover McLaurin at some point in today's game?
I'm going to say 0%.
That is probably a safe bet.
For your question, I will go with Lockett.
It is Lockett. Breeze or Mayfield is the question. I don't think that's an actual question. It is definitely Breeze, right? You don't love Mayfield that much?
Yeah.
Lockett, 16.7. Terry McLaurin, only 14.8.
Yeah.
Last one. Your 13th favorite player in the NFC, Evan Ingram versus Logan Thomas. Your 14th favorite player in the NFC.
Well, that's those two are really high up there for me, apparently. I will go with Logan Thomas.
Logan Thomas by a point, 9.8 to 8.8. I was surprised Ingram was actually that high. Matt, which game are you looking forward to watching today the most?
I'd say Kansas and New Orleans, even with. I'm just curious how Breeze does when he comes back. That's my game.
Yeah, that should be a pretty good game. That's the one I'm looking forward to the most. Question for you for my lineup. I have Jamison Crowder in right now at wide receiver. It's not a flex, so it has to be another wide receiver. The options for him would be Travis Fulgham, Denzel Mims.
You still have him.
I mean, it's dynasty. Andy Isabella, Darnell Mooney, T. Higgins, Sterling Shepard, or Scotty Miller. Is there one you like better than? Is it maybe Mims? I'm down 50 points, so I need the high ceiling.
The highest ceiling? Crowder is definitely the safest of those guys.
I don't want save. I want a huge ceiling.
I don't know. Is it shocking enough to say that Scotty Miller's probably the huge ceiling?
I still don't think there's enough volume there.
I know, but he could get 2 70-yard touchdowns.
I mean, could T. Higgins not have a 2-touchdown game?
I know, but Scotty Miller only gets deep balls.
What about Darnell Mooney? He only gets deep balls. Got a question here before you answer mine. Greg Ryman wants to know, I hope I said the last name wrong. Right, I probably didn't. Antonio Brown or Smith-Schuster Standard League? That's going to be Juju Smith-Schuster. Even though he doesn't get that many yards, he should be good for a touchdown today. Thanks for the question, Greg. Make sure to hit that like.
Standard does make that a closer option, though, because Juju's feasts off of getting 7 or 8 catches a day.
Yeah, but I do think there's a better chance he scores today.
I guess it's Crowder, but yeah, Mims could be the higher ceiling.
Yeah, I guess I'll make that decision at 3:00 if the game's even close. I don't think I have any other ones. Like I said, I put DJ Chark in to dominate you, so 2 Jacksonville Jaguars. And the reason I put DJ Chark in is because Marcus Peters and Jimmy Smith are out for the Ravens. So he might get some Humphreys, but he's not going to get likely all the Humphreys. Do you have any start-sit questions before we go?
So I've done Gus Bus versus Jeff Wilson, which we talked about pre-game.
Jeff Wilson or Gus Bust? It's going to be Gus Bust for me because I just think he has a higher floor. I have Julio and Galladay, who are both hurt. I have Michael Thomas and Galladay, who are both hurt. So, at least you got Antonio Brown and Juju. So you do have respectable options. It's not like you have to go trolling for the Gus Bus. Or Chad Gibson and Devontae Parker. My goodness, man. This is my team from our league last year, Matt, our Yahoo league. Why am I getting the zone notifications on my phone? Go away. Anyways, Matt, anything you want to add before we wrap it up and go watch some football?
No, just good luck in everybody's semifinals, except for you.
Thank you very much. I will say the same. Good luck to everybody in their semifinals, except for Matt. Yeah, and I got Stefon Diggs. So you're nice Stefon Diggs. That's a lot of good wide receivers on that team. So good draft for you. Thanks, Greg. You have yourself a good day as well. Best of luck. Hope you win all your matchups. Matt, I hope you win none of your matchups. I'm not even rooting for you in leagues where I'm not playing you. I just want you to lose.
That's not nice.
But it's honest, and that's what matters. That's the way I was raised.
Well,
anyways, that's going to do it for us.
Right.
We'll be back next week, and hopefully you will too.
For your finals.
That's it. Guaranteed to be in one final, one of us.
Yeah, I guess.